What's going on, gamers? So, we got an interview on Variety from Neil Druckmann about Last of Us Part 3, and there's been some news going around that's not good because a lot of people are very disappointed because they think there's not going to be a Last of Us Part 3. Well, the thing is obviously I don't like what he said too, but we're going to backtrack a little bit and then we're going to read some other things about Last of Us because, in general, Last of Us lately has been letting a lot of people down because people wanted The Last of Us Online, right? That got canceled. Then he's telling people now there's not going to be a part three. And a lot of people were thinking, well, no, he's just going to use those resources for, the multiplayer in part three. And, they got to do something, right? And then you just realize, man, what if they just all get rid of all of it? No, you can't just throw away all that time, right? You can't just let it end where Ellie's at right now. And a lot of people feel like they didn't like the way he directed it compared to Amy Hennig, who did part one, which I agree she did do a better job. I preferred the art and the parody of it as well. But I did like part two, of course. I got the platinum on it, beat everything on that. But we're gonna deep dive into this, and then we're gonna make some good analysis and guesstimations about what do you think he really means by this. And there's an interview people don't know about that I'm going to share with you as well that he said. There's only about 2 minutes of it, but it'll be enough to touch on whether this will be happening or not. We know part two is coming to PC next month, so let's get into this. Like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what y'all think. So right here it says, Neil Druckmann says The Last of Us Part 3 might not happen. I guess the only thing I could say is don't bet on there being more of Last of Us. This could be it. He didn't finalize nail in the coffin, but he's basically saying that he just doesn't know, you know what I mean? And I have some things to touch about, and that then we're going to get into the interview and read about it. So first things first is we're gonna get on online too. If y'all remember what Bungie told Naughty Dog that it helped to cancel Last of Us Online, because Shuhei actually said it was a good game. We'll get to that after we get to this. Here's the interview right here where it says Neil Druckmann confirms The Last of Us Part 3. I wouldn't really say that, but basically it's weird what he says here compared to what he's saying now. And let's get into this.
I did some other interview where someone asked me about The Last of Us and would there be any more stories or something. And I mentioned, like, we have written a story that takes place after Last of Us 2.
So you heard what he just said right there. They already writ a story. And he has a concept for what's after Last of Us Part 2, but what though?
It stars Tommy. And I hope one day we get to make it. And the headlines across the industry were like, Naughty Dog has outlined Last of Us Part 3. And that's actually wrong. It was always a small story. It was never like a full title. At the time we had...
So that makes you think about like a standalone, right? Kind of like how they did with the Uncharted standalone. That'll probably be something that we would get, but as far as a full-fledged Last of Us Part 3, he never even confirmed that here. It just gives you an idea. This was like over a year plus ago, maybe longer.
Higher priorities at Naughty Dog was like to fix our pipeline, to fix work-life balance issues. Just based on where we were, I didn't want to prioritize this story, so that story was shelved. And I still believe one day it will see the light of day. I don't know if it'll be a game or a show, TBD. First game had such a clean concept of like the unconditional love a parent feels for their child. The second one, once we landed on this idea of the pursuit of justice at any cost, justice for the ones you love, it felt like, oh, there's a clean concept here, and there's a through line from the first game about love. If we never get to do it again, this is a fine ending point. And right, last bite of the apple, the story's done. The great thing about working at Naughty Dog is that we don't have to. It's always like, we would love another Last of Us, but...
So you see what he's saying, like, to him, he thinks that ending, which, no, that ending is not great. A lot of people were not happy with that. I feel like they have to do something to remedy that. And we're going to find out how he's actually worried and scared about that in this interview.
But if you guys feel like are passionate about something else, we'll support this other thing. Very privileged position to be in. I never take that for granted. I've been just thinking about, okay, is there a concept there? And for now years, I haven't been able to find that concept. But recently that's changed. And I don't have a story, but I do have that concept that to me is as exciting as one, as exciting as two, is its own thing, and yet has this through line for all three. So it does feel like there's probably one more chapter to the story.
So you see, he feels like there could be Last of Us Part 3. And he's not saying he has everything mapped out, but he said he has a story. So right there, we get an idea of what he said here. And then we come to today, and let's go to this part right here when I'm talking about that. So it's not like it's a blank to him, but it's more like we're going to see in this interview, right? All right. With Mazin's enthusiasm and pep talks, as well as the support of his inner circle, Druckmann thickened his skin to the point that he doesn't think that any commensurate online hatred from season 2 of The Last of Us would upset him. I love the changes that we've made, he says. It's a different version of that story, but its DNA is in there. Maybe more than excited. I'm really curious what the reaction will be. He's talking about the TV series. And I had to go all the way down here because we're trying to get to the meat of the video so that we can get answers about what he said about Last of Us. How much longer Last of Us can continue, meanwhile, remains an open question. Mazin and Druckmann always plan to split part 2 into more than one season. Yeah, because part 2 is a lot longer than part 1. They're just not sure how many more there will be. It feels like we've got 1 or 2 more seasons, Mazin says. It's getting harder to make because every episode gets big, more budget. We're going to talk about how also like them getting to all these TV shows and stuff also means they're not fully on board with developing a video game too, because that's also pulling their attention and they have to make sure that the TV series is good. But yet you cancel Last of Us Online and now you're saying there may not be part 3. This is the thing where I have to say there needs to be a balance between first getting your video games right. Not that we don't want the TV show because it is good, but there's always a lot of that. So, as I said, it's getting harder to make because every episode gets big. So they're spending money on this too. You don't want to wait 4 years for a 17 episode finish or whatever it is. Then there's the long whispered possibility of The Last of Us Part 3. Now we're getting to this. I was waiting for this question, Druckmann says, sighing. When I bring up the prospect of a third game, I guess the only thing I could say is don't bet on there being more of Last of Us. This could be it. Now he says this compared to the interview we just looked at. But we know that there's still something there that could happen. He doesn't say no, but he's just, I feel like this is an insecurity that he's projecting and a lot of stress. I get to this. No matter the show's long-term prospects with the renewal all but guaranteed from HBO, Mazin and Druckmann will soon start their process all over again. I've been feeling scared lately about this. Like, oh yeah, I have to start thinking about season 3. There it is again. Fear, insecurity, doubt. Mazin says, I remember having this feeling when we were finishing season 1, where I was like, how the F are we going to top this? Now, of course, I'm like, how the F are we going to top this? Talking about season 2, and then there's some images right here about season 2. So my thing is that he didn't outright say that there isn't a Last of Us 3 and it's finalized and we're not going to make it. But I kind of feel like there's some doubts and insecurities there. And that they're also focusing on the seasons for this and Intergalactic to be their next game. And he's just not trying to fully focus on Last of Us right now because that would be what he would want to fully focus on. So now that we know this for sure, we know that if we do see Last of Us Part 3, it ain't going to be till next gen. It ain't going to come out at the end of the gen like Last of Us 2 did for PlayStation 4. Because so much stuff got messed up. Right? Let's go over here real quick to the canceled Last of Us Online, right? Former head PlayStation Shuhei Yoshida is dropping some absolute bombs about this tenor at Sony in a new interview, including one that answers a question about a recent live service cancellation. One of the most significant PlayStation stories of the last couple of years was the announcement of Naughty Dog had canceled the long-awaited Last of Us Online, a bolstered version of the original well-perceived Factions multiplayer, as Last of Us Part 2 had launched without it. There was reporting at a time that Bungie had been brought in to use their live service expertise. And the game was canceled not all that long after that. there's this refrain that Bungie canceled The Last of Us Online. But that isn't exactly true from what Yoshida says. It was more like Bungie talked to Naughty Dog, who then soon realized they should cancel the game themselves, along with consultation with Sony. Yoshida, despite saying when he played The Last of Us Online, it was great, says that Bungie explained what it takes to make live service games, and Naughty Dog realized, oops, we can't do that. If we do it, we can't make Intergalactic. So that was a lack of foresight, a very expensive oops. The cost, that cost years of development resources and tens of millions of dollars, no doubt. Intergalactic is the brand new sci-fi IP from the studio that released a recent trailer at the Game Awards showing off its concept and its star, Tati Gabriella, as we know about it. Just give her a hairstyle and you'll be okay. It was subject to some of the controversy, a lot of brand logos, typical DEI accusations, but looks to be a key addition to PlayStation's lineup, given that Naughty Dog does not miss when it comes to its single-player games. I didn't even know about that right there. So, but no doubt, what Bungie made them realize is just how significant of an investment it is to run a live service consistently. I don't understand how you didn't know that at the beginning, seeing that you've been in the industry this long, since PlayStation 1 days, and you want to say, oops. This is what I mean by like, what type of world are you living in? How is your mind that damn blank to not realize that? Why would you stop it? There's so much fear and insecurity that in Naughty Dog right now doesn't make any sense. And ever since Amy left, and other people, I just think that it's just showing how much of a piece of that puzzle is missing. You should know that when you make a live service game, you're not going to just throw it up there like a single player game. You need to support it for a while. You still would have been able to work on Intergalactic as well. And you could have kept that going as long as possible. And Yoshida said that he thought it was great and that it was good. Um, it's not like it was bad, so why did you cancel it? You know what I mean? Why did you run away after putting that much time and resources into it? And then you're saying you don't want to do Last of Us Part 3? Then you're gonna work on that game and just rush to that game. You should have finished that game first, then did that after. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense because you can finish the single player game, like, okay, we're done with that. Let's continue Last of Us Online. You don't just dump it. Like I feel like that when it comes to that type of stuff, you realize like, wait, hold on. Aren't you guys supposed to be professionals in the gaming industry? You've been in there that long. You're gonna just beat that ass backwards and just goofy and just it's stupid, right? Like you kind of have to say that because it's like, what are we talking about here? You can finish the single player game and continue working on your game. And like I said, if anything, just say I'm freezing it. Don't cancel it. And then let's finish working on this and then resume it. Right? Why haven't these concepts come up? And Bungie's supposed to be there for expertise, right? Uh, but at the end of the day, I don't understand why they didn't recommend that. And why people just didn't help with The Last of Us Online, why they were working with Intergalactic. Like there's a way to like, you know, handle things better, not just throw it away and waste all that time and you miss a generation of a game and all that. This is the thing that I'm saying, like over at PlayStation, but this leadership is just like just stupid. Like definitely in the West, like it doesn't make any sense to me. Like I just don't like the things that I'm reading and what I'm hearing, what they're saying. It's just like, what are we talking about here? So let's just finish talking about this real quick too, though. It's one thing to build the game, but another to manage it, balance it, monetize it, update it, and grow it over time, which of course Sony's goal with such a project. Even if it's not on the scale of Destiny, it is still a ton of work and a huge risk to launch a multiplayer game in the current market. And Sony, of all places, has certainly realized this cancellation took place before Concord. However, mhm. But last count, Naughty Dog had around 400 employees, excluding additional help like contractors. It may seem obvious, but making a single player game like Intergalactic mixed with the ongoing potentially endless management of a live service game could be a huge strain on the studio and hurt both projects. So no, I don't think it's accurate to say Bungie canceled The Last of Us Online, but they do seem to have made Naughty Dog realize exactly what they were signing up for when they previously didn't seem to fully understand. How, if you're making a live service game, do you think you're just going to release it like a single player game? I like how I don't even get why you would need Bungie to realize that. So, guys, seriously, what is this goofiness like? Unbelievable, man. It doesn't make any sense. And there's people making articles and videos about this right now too, talking about Last of Us Part 3 not happening. They're not happy about that. But what I would say is don't put a nail in the coffin. But from what we can tell, though, and what we do know, it ain't happening anytime soon. And if they do, they need to take those resources from The Last of Us Online and intermingle them together and find a way to manifest it after Intergalactic. It's the only possible thing. Like, you can't do that. So let me know what you guys think about it. This is my take on it. And I wanted to give you guys a more deeper analysis and a different look instead of just making a complaining video so that we can kind of peer into it and dissecting it a bit. Uh, and we had to use AGN's detective skills. All right, y'all. Peace out. Ponies. Sit down. All right, y'all. Later.